Jack Harper looked out the small window of the shuttle as it approached the strange purple planet. His mission was simple: make first contact with the Zelturians and start peaceful talks. At least that's what they told him before he left Earth. Jack was not just any man. He used to be in the Navy SEALs before becoming a diplomat. He was tall with short brown hair and eyes that had seen too much war. Now, at age 35, he hoped to make peace, not fight. The shuttle shook. Red lights flashed. "We're being targeted," said the pilot, Alan. His face was pale with fear. Before Jack could respond, something hit them hard. The shuttle spun out of control. Smoke filled the cabin. "Mayday! Mayday!" Alan yelled into the radio. "This is Earth Shuttle Delta, requesting emergency." Another hit cut him off. The shuttle began to fall toward the planet. Jack grabbed his emergency pack and strapped in tight. The ground came up fast. The last thing he remembered was the horrible sound of metal tearing apart. When Jack woke up, his head hurt badly. He was no longer in the shuttle. Instead, he lay on a cold metal floor in a room with strange symbols on the walls. The air smelled like chemicals. 4 tall figures stood around him. The Zelturians looked nothing like humans. They had hard outer shells like insects, with 6 limbs and large eyes that didn't blink. Their bodies were blue-green with patterns that seemed to move. They made clicking sounds to each other. One of them stepped forward. It held something that looked like a weapon. "I come in peace," Jack said, raising his hands slowly. "I'm a diplomat. From Earth." The Zelturians didn't seem to understand or care. 2 of them grabbed Jack with their lower limbs. Their touch felt cold and rough. They pulled him to his feet and pushed him forward. Jack was led through long hallways with curved walls. Other aliens watched as he passed. Some were Zelturians, but others were species Jack had never seen before. All of them wore simple gray clothes with different colored marks. Prisoners, Jack realized. He was in some kind of jail. They stopped at a large round door. A Zelturian pressed its limb against a panel, and the door opened. Inside was what looked like a courtroom. Many Zelturians sat in raised seats looking down at him. One wore special armor with red markings. This one seemed to be in charge. The trial, if you could call it that, was short. Jack couldn't understand anything they said. He tried to explain his mission many times, but they ignored him. The leader made a final clicking sound, and the others all tapped their front limbs against their bodies. Jack didn't need a translator to know that was bad news. Next came what Jack could only call processing. They took his clothes and gave him gray pants and a shirt like the other prisoners. They scanned him with strange devices and took samples of his blood. One Zelturian with white markings studied him closely, touching his skin and hair as if Jack were a lab animal. "What do you want from me?" Jack asked, but got no answer. They put a metal band around his wrist. It felt warm against his skin and had a small light that blinked green. When they were done, guards took him to a small cell. The cell was a perfect cube with no windows. The walls, floor, and ceiling were made of something like smooth stone. There was a flat platform for sleeping, a small sink, and a toilet. The door had no handle on the inside. A dim light came from the ceiling and never turned off. For 3 weeks, Jack saw almost no one. A small opening in the door appeared 3 times a day with food, a gray paste that tasted like nothing but kept him alive. Once a day, he was allowed to shower in a small room under the watch of a guard. During those long days alone, Jack listened carefully to everything. He began to pick up small bits of the Zelturian language. The guards made the same sounds when they brought food or took him to shower. Jack started to match sounds with actions. He also exercised to stay strong. Push-ups, sit-ups, and running in place filled his days. He knew he needed to be ready for whatever came next. On the 22nd day, his routine changed. 2 guards came to his cell early. They made him stand against the wall while they put metal cuffs on his wrists. "Where?" "Are we going?" Jack asked, but as usual, they ignored him. They led him through the prison, down several levels in what felt like an elevator. The air grew colder and had a smell like burnt metal. They passed through security points where guards checked their IDs and the band on Jack's wrist. Finally, they arrived at a huge open area. Jack could see they were deep underground. The ceiling was high, with strange lights hanging down. Hundreds of prisoners worked at different stations. Some used tools to break rocks. Others operated machines that made loud noises. The guards and prisoners were from many different species. The guards took Jack to a Zelturian with yellow markings. This one had a translator device. "Human," it said in a flat, mechanical voice. "You work here now. Refinery section. You break ore. Do not talk to other workers. Do not stop working. 12 hours each day. If you make trouble, you go to the box." Jack didn't know what the box was, but he could guess it wasn't good. "I understand," he said. The yellow-marked Zelturian pointed to a station where large chunks of glowing blue rock waited. "Start now." Jack's job was simple, but hard. He had to break the blue rocks into smaller pieces using a tool like a hammer. The rocks were heavy and sometimes gave off sparks when hit. By the end of his shift, his arms burned with pain and his hands were covered in blisters. As days passed, Jack learned more about the prison. The Zelturians called it the Void Pit. It was built inside their moon, far from their homeworld. No one had ever escaped. The prison had different levels for different prisoners. Humans were rare and kept in the maximum security area. Jack was careful to follow rules while watching everything. He noticed how the guards changed shifts, how the security systems worked, and which areas were less watched. He learned more words of the Zelturian language each day. Knowledge was his only weapon now. After 3 weeks of working in the refinery, Jack had settled into a routine. Wake up, eat work more, eat again, sleep. The same thing every day. But on that day, something changed. He was breaking rocks when he felt someone watching him. Jack looked up slowly and saw another human for the first time since his capture. It was a woman with dark hair tied back and striking blue eyes that seemed too bright for this dark place. She worked at the next station over, sorting smaller pieces of the blue rock. Their eyes met for just a second before they both looked away. The guards didn't like prisoners making contact. But in that brief moment, Jack felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. For 3 days, Jack watched the woman from a distance. She kept to herself, never talking to the other prisoners. The guards seemed to pay her less attention than the others, as if they were used to her presence. Jack wondered how long she had been in the Void Pit. On the 4th day, Jack got his chance. The guards were distracted by a fight between 2 alien prisoners. The woman moved closer to Jack's station. "Don't look at me," she said in perfect English. Her voice was low and clear. "Keep working." Jack continued to break rocks, his heart beating faster. Another human. Another voice that spoke his language. "They don't know we understand each other's languages," she continued. "Keep it that way." "Who are you?" Jack asked quietly, not looking up. "Alara," she said. "Been here 2 years. You're the new human. I heard the guards talking about you." "Jack Harper, how do we talk without them noticing?" "Watch me. I'll teach you." Over the next few days, Alara showed Jack a system of small gestures and movements that looked like normal work motions but had meaning. A tap of the hammer meant danger. A special way of sorting rocks meant listen carefully. A stretch of the arms was a question. It was a simple but effective code. When the guards weren't watching, they exchanged quick words. Jack learned that Alara had been a scientist studying alien plants when the Zelturians captured her. They said she was stealing their biological secrets. Alara laughed quietly when she told him this. "All I did was collect a few leaves," she said. "They treat all knowledge like it belongs only to them." Jack told her about Earth, about recent discoveries and events she had missed during her 2 years in prison. She listened with hungry eyes, soaking up every detail. "Tell me about trees," she said once. "Real Earth trees. I miss them so much." Jack described oak trees, pine forests, and the cherry blossoms in spring. Alara closed her eyes for a moment, as if seeing them in her mind. As weeks passed, Jack realized Alara knew far more than she first let on. She spoke the Zelturian language fluently and understood their technology. She had studied their culture and social structure. She knew which guards could be trusted a little and which ones to avoid completely. How do you know all this? Jack asked one day. I watch. I listen. I remember everything, she said. Knowledge is the only freedom we have in here. 2 months after they met, a riot broke out in the prison dining hall. A group of large reptilian aliens attacked the guards. Chaos spread quickly. Prisoners ran in all directions. Guards fired weapons that made loud sounds and released gas. In the confusion, Jack was separated from the other workers. He tried to find a safe corner when a Zelturian guard found him alone. The guard raised its weapon, making angry clicking sounds. Jack raised his hands to show he wasn't fighting, but the guard swung a heavy club at him. Jack dodged, but not fast enough. The club hit his shoulder with a crack. Pain shot through his body. He fell to the ground as the guard prepared to hit him again. Suddenly, something hit the guard from behind. The Zelturian turned to see Alara, standing there. She had thrown a piece of rock. The guard rushed toward her, but Jack managed to get up and tackle the guard from behind. Together, they knocked the Zelturian out. We need to go, Alara said, pulling Jack's arm. More will come. They ran through the chaos, avoiding fights and guards. Alara led them through a service door that Jack had never noticed before. They climbed down a maintenance ladder to a lower level where it was quieter. Your shoulder is hurt, Alara said, examining him in the dim light. It might be broken, Jack admitted. The pain was getting worse. Come with me. I know where to go. Alara took him through narrow passages that seemed to be for maintenance workers. They reached a small storage room filled with cleaning supplies. We can hide here until the riot is over, she said, closing the door. Let me see your shoulder. Jack winced as she touched the injury. Alara's hands were gentle but sure. She took some plants from a hidden pocket in her clothes. What are those? Jack asked. Zelturian healing plants. I've been growing them in my cell, she explained. They'll help with the pain and speed healing. She crushed the plants and mixed them with water to make a paste. The paste felt cool on Jack's skin and smelled sweet. Soon the pain began to lessen. You could get in trouble for having these, Jack said. Alara smiled. I've been in trouble since the day I arrived. This is worth the risk. As they waited for the riot to end, they talked more openly than ever before. Alara told Jack about her life before capture, about her studies of alien biology and her passion for understanding other life forms. I always wanted to be the bridge between species, she said, to help humans understand that we're not alone in our way of thinking and feeling. Is that why you learned their language so well? Jack asked. Alara nodded. Language is the first step to understanding. The Zelturians think differently than we do. Their words show this. They have 15 different words for duty, but only one word that covers both love and weakness. They see love as weakness. They see it as a dangerous distraction from duty, she explained. But they're wrong. Connection makes us stronger, not weaker. They fell silent as footsteps passed by the door. Guards were searching the area. Jack and Alara held their breath until the danger passed. Why did you help me? Jack finally asked. You could have been killed. Alara looked at him for a long moment. 2 years ago, when I first came here, another prisoner helped me. She died during an escape attempt. Before she died, she made me promise something. What was that? She said, if you ever see another human in this place, help them. Remind them what humanity means. I'm keeping that promise. Jack felt a lump in his throat. Thank you. Rest now, she said. When it's safe, we'll go back. Act like nothing happened. The guards will punish everyone for the riot, but they don't need to know we were together. As Jack closed his eyes, feeling the strange plant medicine working on his shoulder, he realized something had changed inside him. For the first time, since his capture, he felt a spark of something beyond mere survival, something like hope. Hours later, when they returned to their cells through Alara's secret passages, Jack had made a decision. He would no longer just wait and watch. With Alara's help, he would find a way out of this prison. They would escape together, or not at all. The next day in the refinery, when their eyes met briefly across the room, a new message passed between them through their secret code. A plan was forming. 6 months passed since Jack first arrived at the Void Pit. The days followed the same pattern, but Jack was no longer the same man. He had learned to survive in this alien world. He knew when to keep his head down and when to watch for opportunities. Most importantly, he had Alara. They never spent much time together openly. That would be too dangerous. Instead, they communicated through their secret code and met in hidden places when they could. Alara knew the prison better than anyone. She showed Jack secret paths through maintenance tunnels and blind spots in the guards' watch patterns. During one of their secret meetings in an unused storage room, Alara shared something that changed everything. "The Zelturians are planning for war," she whispered. "Against Earth." Jack stared at her. "How do you know this?" "I clean the command offices at night," she explained. "I've seen the plans. They think humans are expanding too quickly into nearby star systems. They believe Earth will attack them first, so they're preparing to strike." "This prison," Jack said slowly. "It's not just for punishment, is it?" Alara shook her head. "The work we do in the refinery? Those blue rocks contain a rare element. The Zelturians use it to power their weapons. We're helping them build the very things they'll use against our people." Jack felt sick. All these months of breaking rocks, he had been helping the enemy prepare to attack Earth. He had to do something. "We need to warn Earth," he said. "That's why I've been planning an escape," Alara replied. "For almost 2 years now." She pulled out a small object that looked like a piece of rock. When she turned it over, Jack could see it was actually a crude map etched into the flat surface. "This is the prison," she explained, pointing to different marks. "And these are the weak points in their security. I've been studying them, waiting for the right time." "What are we waiting for?" Jack asked. "The changing of the Queen." Jack had learned about Zelturian society during his time in prison. The species was ruled by a queen who made all major decisions. When a new queen took power, many changes would happen throughout their society. "The old queen is dying," Alara continued. "When the new queen takes over, there will be a ceremony. The prison warden will attend, along with many high-ranking guards. Security will be lighter than usual." "When?" "Soon. Within a month, according to what I've heard. But we can't do this alone." Alara explained that over her time in prison, she had identified other prisoners who might help. Species that also had reasons to fight against the Zelturians. "There's Krill, a Vortian engineer who was captured when the Zelturians took over his planet. He knows their technology better than anyone. And Nux, a Tavos warrior whose entire family was killed by Zelturian soldiers. He has access to the kitchen area." "Can we trust them?" Jack asked. "We don't have a choice," Alara said. "We need their help." Over the next few weeks, Jack and Alara carefully approached the aliens Alara had selected. Using simple words and gestures, they shared their plan. Not all of it, just enough to gauge interest. Some refused, too afraid of punishment. But Krill, Nux, and 3 others agreed to help. They met in secret, late at night when most prisoners were sleeping. Alara had discovered that the metal bands on their wrists had a weak point. If exposed to the right combination of chemicals from the refinery, the lock mechanism would fail. Krill knew how to disable the alarms on certain doors. Nux could get them food for the journey. As they planned, Jack noticed something changing between him and Alara. Their hands would touch a moment too long. Their eyes would meet and hold. In this cold, harsh place, something warm was growing. Neither spoke of it, but both felt it. One night, as they finished discussing escape routes, the others left, leaving Jack and Alara alone in their hiding place. "Why did you really help me that first day?" Jack asked. "The real reason." Alara was quiet for a moment. "When I saw you, I saw hope. For 2 years, I was alone here, the only human among thousands of aliens. I almost forgot what it was like to talk to someone who understood Earth, who knew what rain felt like or how a sunset looked." Jack moved closer to her. "I didn't think I would find anything good in this place. But I found you." Their hands touched, fingers intertwining. In the dim light, her eyes looked like stars in the darkness. If we die trying to escape, she whispered, it will still be worth it. Better to die free than live as their slaves. We won't die, Jack promised. We'll make it together. They were interrupted by a distant alarm. Something was happening in another part of the prison. They quickly separated and returned to their cells through different routes. The next day, excitement ran through the prison. Guards were acting differently, more alert but also distracted. Prisoners whispered to each other when they could. Something big was happening. Jack found out from a guard's conversation. The old queen had died during the night. The new queen would take power immediately. Ceremony would happen in 3 days. During work in the refinery, Jack exchanged signals with Alara and the others. The time had come sooner than expected. They needed to be ready. That night, Alara came to Jack's cell using her knowledge of the guard patterns. She carried a small container of blue liquid. This will disable your wristband, she explained. But not yet. Wait until the signal. What's the signal? Jack asked. You'll know it, she said with a small smile. The whole prison will know it. She showed him how to apply the liquid to the band when the time came. As she prepared to leave, Jack caught her hand. Alara, he said softly. If we make it out, what then? She looked at him, her expression serious. Then we warn Earth. We tell them everything we know about the Zelturians, their weapons, their plans. We give our people a chance to prepare or maybe even find a way to make peace. And us? What about us? Alara's face softened. I don't know what will happen, but I know I don't want to lose you when we're finally free. She leaned forward and kissed him quickly, just a brief touch of her lips on his. Then she was gone, slipping away into the darkness of the corridor. Jack touched his lips, feeling a mix of hope and fear. In 2 days, they would make their move. They would escape, or die trying, and if they succeeded, they would carry vital information that might save Earth. He lay on his hard bed, unable to sleep. His mind was filled with thoughts of freedom, of Earth, and of Alara. Whatever happened, meeting her had changed him forever. She had given him purpose and hope when he had none. Together they had a chance to change not just their own fates, but the fate of humanity itself. The next day, final preparations began. The day before the escape, Jack could barely eat. His stomach was tight with worry. Everything had to work perfectly, or they would all die. He looked across the dining hall at Alara, who sat with other workers from the medical section. She caught his eye for just a second and gave him a tiny nod. All was ready. That night, Jack lay awake on his hard bed. He thought about Earth, about the blue sky and green trees he might never see again. He thought about his family who probably believed he was dead. Most of all, he thought about Alara and the brief kiss they had shared. In this dark place, she had given him light. Morning came too soon. Jack went to work in the refinery as usual. The guards seemed distracted. Many of the senior ones were gone, attending the Queen's ceremony as Alara had predicted. The remaining guards were younger and less experienced. Jack waited for the signal. Hours passed. He broke rocks, watching the clock on the wall. Noon came and went. Had something gone wrong? Then it happened. The lights went out completely. The entire refinery was dark. Confused voices filled the blackness. Guards shouted orders. Emergency lights came on, casting red shadows across the room. Jack knew what to do. He took out the small container Alara had given him and poured the blue liquid on his wristband. The band made a soft click and fell to the floor. He was free. In the confusion, Jack moved quietly toward the exit they had planned to use. Near the door, a large alien figure waited. It was Nux, the Tavos warrior. His rough skin looked even darker in the red emergency light. Human, Nux growled softly. This way. They slipped through the door into a narrow hallway, Alarms were ringing somewhere distant. The backup power systems were failing too. Ilara and Krill had done their work well. Nux led Jack through back passages. 2 more aliens waited for them at a junction. One was Krill, the Vortian engineer, with 4 arms and silver skin. The other was Zev, a small green alien with large eyes who worked in maintenance. "Where's Ilara?" Jack asked, worried. "She comes separately," Krill explained in broken English. "She makes the big distraction." They continued through the maze of tunnels. Zev knew all the maintenance paths that weren't on any prison maps. They passed locked doors that Krill opened with stolen codes. Twice they had to hide from passing guards. They reached a large storage area filled with crates. This was where they would meet Ilara and the others. Minutes passed. Jack grew more anxious with each moment. Suddenly, the door on the far side opened. Ilara rushed in with 2 more aliens. Her face was flushed, and there was a cut on her arm. "Need to hurry," she said. "They know something's happening. The warden is returning early from the ceremony." "What did you do?" Jack asked. "I set charges in the power control room," she said. "Not enough to hurt anyone, but enough to keep them busy. And I got these." She held up a data stick. "The prison's files, including their war plans against Earth." Jack wanted to hug her, but knew there was no time. "Where to now?" "The shuttle bay," Krill said. 2 levels up. Supply ships come today." They moved quickly, following Zev through more hidden passages. The alarms were louder now. Guards were running everywhere, searching for escaped prisoners. They reached a security door. This was the hardest part of their plan. Beyond this door was the shuttle bay where supply ships docked. If they could steal a ship, they might escape the moon. Krill worked on the door controls while the others kept watch. The Vortian's 4 hands moved quickly, connecting wires and typing codes. "It's not working," he said after a minute. "They changed the codes." Ilara stepped forward. "Let me try." While she worked, Jack heard footsteps coming closer. A squad of guards was approaching. "Hurry," he whispered. The door slid open just as the guards turned the corner. Nux pushed everyone through quickly. Jack was last. As he jumped through the doorway, a guard fired his weapon. Pain exploded in Jack's leg. He fell forward as the door closed behind him. "Jack." Ilara knelt beside him. His pants were soaked with blood where the shot had hit his thigh. "I'm okay," he lied, gritting his teeth against the pain. "We need to keep moving." The shuttle bay was huge, with high ceilings and wide spaces for ships to land. 3 small cargo vessels sat on the landing pads. Workers were loading one ship with crates. That one. Krill pointed to the smallest ship, which sat empty near the far wall. "It's almost ready to fly." Nux helped Jack walk. They stayed behind, large containers moving slowly toward the ship. The workers were too busy to notice them. They were halfway there when a loud voice rang out. "Stop! Prisoners escaping!" A guard had spotted them from an upper level. Alarms blared through the shuttle bay. Workers scattered as more guards rushed in. "Run!" Ilara shouted. They broke cover and raced for the ship. Guards fired at them. Zev screamed and fell, hit in the back. There was no time to help him. They reached the ship. Krill ran to the controls while Nux stood at the door, fighting off guards who tried to follow. One of the other aliens was hit and collapsed at the entrance. Jack could barely stand now. He leaned against a wall, trying to stay conscious. Ilara tore strips from her shirt to wrap around his leg. "Almost ready," Krill called from the pilot's seat. "Need 2 minutes to start engines." "We don't have 2 minutes," Nux growled, fighting another guard. Ilara finished bandaging Jack's leg and ran to a control panel near the shuttle bay doors. "I can open the outer doors. The air will rush out. The guards won't be able to follow." "We'll be sucked out too," Jack called. "Not if we're inside and strapped down," she said. She looked at Jack. "Trust me." Jack nodded. Ilara typed quickly on the panel, then ran back to the ship. Nux pulled her inside and sealed the door. "Everyone hold on!" Ilara shouted. A massive door began to open in the ceiling of the bay. Air rushed toward it with hurricane force. Guards and loose equipment flew through the air. The ship rocked but remained in place, held by its landing clamps. Now, Krill, Ilara shouted. Krill hit a button, and the landing clamps released. The ship lurched upward, caught in the rushing air. For a terrible moment, Jack thought they would crash into the ceiling. Then the engines fired and Krill gained control. They shot out of the bay into space. The moon fell away below them. Through the window, Jack could see the prison, a dark spot on the gray surface. "We did it," he whispered, hardly believing it was true. Ilara came to his side and took his hand. "Not yet. We still need to get to safe space." Krill worked the controls, setting a course away from Zelturian territory. 6 weeks to nearest human outpost, he said. "If we're lucky." Jack looked at Ilara. Her face was dirty and tired, but her eyes were bright with hope. "We'll make it," he said, "together." As the ship accelerated into deep space, Jack felt something he hadn't felt in months: freedom. But along with freedom came a heavy responsibility. They carried information that could save Earth from a terrible war. And they carried something else too, something Jack couldn't quite name yet: a new understanding between species. A bridge built by shared suffering and shared hope. He looked at their small crew, a human scientist, a former soldier, a Vordian engineer, and a Tavos warrior. Different worlds, different bodies, but united in their desire for freedom. "Rest," Ilara told him, checking his bandage. "Your body needs to heal." As Jack closed his eyes, he knew that whatever happened next, his life had changed forever. In the darkest place imaginable, he had found light. He had found her. 6 weeks in space tested them all. The small cargo ship was not made for long journeys or comfort. Food was limited to emergency rations they had stolen from the prison. Water had to be recycled carefully. The ship's air filters worked poorly, leaving the air stale and thin. Jack's leg healed slowly. The wound from the guard's weapon was deep. Ilara used her knowledge of medicine to clean and treat it, but she had few supplies. For the first week, Jack ran a fever that made him shake and sweat. Ilara stayed by his side, cooling his forehead with damp cloths and giving him sips of water. When the fever broke, Jack was weak but alive. He began to walk again, limping around the small ship to build his strength. Ilara supported him, her arm around his waist. "Why didn't you leave me behind?" Jack asked her one quiet night as they sat together in the ship's small common area. "I slowed you down. I was a risk." Ilara looked at him steadily. "We don't leave people behind. That's what makes us human." The aliens watched this exchange with interest. Nux, the Tavos warrior, nodded his large head. "My people same," he said in his rough English. "Loyalty to group, honor in protecting weak." Krill, the Vordian engineer, had different thoughts. "Zelturians leave weak ones. They say weakness is disease that spreads. That is why they make war. They think other species weak." During those long weeks, the small group learned about each other's worlds and cultures. They found more similarities than differences. All had families they missed. All had homes they wanted to see again. All had suffered under Zelturian rule. They studied the data Ilara had stolen from the prison. It contained detailed plans for attacks on human colonies, maps of Earth's defenses, and designs for biological weapons that could target human DNA. This information could save millions of lives if they reached human space in time. On the 42nd day of their journey, Krill detected a signal. "Human frequency," he announced from the pilot's seat. "Europa Station." Europa Station was a human outpost near the edge of explored space. It served as a trading post and military base. If they could reach it, they would be safe. "Should we respond?" Krill asked. Jack and Ilara exchanged looks. "Not yet," Jack decided. "We're in stolen Zelturian ship. They might think we're enemies." "We wait until visual range," Ilara agreed. "Then send message explaining who we are." 2 days later they saw it, a large space station floating against the blackness. It looked like a wheel with spokes connecting to a central hub. Lights glowed along its surface. Several ships moved around it, coming and going from docking areas. "It's beautiful," Ilara whispered, her eyes bright with tears. After 2 years in prison and 6 weeks in a cramped ship, the sight of a human structure moved her deeply. They sent their message. Europa Station, this is Earth citizens Jack Harper and Alara Bennett in stolen Zelturian vessel. We escaped from prison with vital information. Request emergency docking. 2 human, 2 alien refugees on board, 1 wounded. The response came quickly. Unidentified vessel, maintain position. Do not approach. Defense systems are locked on your ship. They don't believe us, Jack said. Alara took the communicator. Europa Station, this is Science Officer Alara Bennett, ID number 47291. Missing in action for 2 years, 3 months. I can verify my identity. We have critical intelligence about Zelturian war plans against Earth. There was a long pause before the response, maintain position, sending security team to board and verify. A small military ship approached them. Armed soldiers in spacesuits entered through the airlock. Jack raised his hands to show he was unarmed. The soldiers were tense, weapons ready. The leader of the team removed her helmet. She was a woman with short gray hair and a stern face. She looked at Jack and Alara with surprise. My God, she said, you really are human. What followed was a whirlwind. They were taken to Europa Station, where doctors treated Jack's leg and checked everyone for diseases. Security officers questioned them for hours about the prison, their escape, and the information they carried. Military intelligence officers arrived from Earth to debrief them. They were amazed by Alara's knowledge of Zelturian language and culture. They studied the stolen data carefully, finding it even more valuable than expected. This gives us options, one officer said. We can prepare defenses, but we can also try diplomatic solutions. The Zelturians respect strength. If we show we know their plans, they might be willing to talk instead of fight. Nux and Krill were treated as honored guests. They were the first of their species to visit a human station. Scientists and diplomats interviewed them, learning about their worlds and the Zelturian occupation. We could form an alliance, Alara suggested in one meeting. Not just humans, but all species who have suffered under Zelturian rule. Together, we might be strong enough to force peace. The idea found support. Plans were made to contact other species and open secret talks. 3 months after arriving at Europa Station, Jack stood at a large window looking out at the stars. His leg had healed, though he would always have a slight limp. He wore a clean uniform with a new rank, Major. The military had welcomed him back as a hero. Alara joined him at the window. She too had been honored for her bravery and intelligence. She now led a team studying Zelturian biology and culture, preparing for possible peace talks. What are you thinking about? She asked, standing close to him. How strange life is, Jack replied. I was sent on a diplomatic mission that failed completely. I was captured, imprisoned, and nearly died several times. And yet, he turned to face her. I found you. If none of that had happened, we would never have met. Alara smiled. Do you think it was worth it? Every moment, he said without hesitation. Even the worst ones. He took her hand, feeling the warmth of her fingers against his. They had been through hell together and emerged stronger. Their shared experience had created a bond that few could understand. What happens now? She asked. They're offering me a research position on Earth. They want you at Central Command. Different places, Jack said with a frown. Different paths. It doesn't have to be, Alara replied. I've requested that my research team be attached to Central Command. For practical reasons, of course. The military needs direct access to our findings. Jack smiled slowly, understanding her plan. Of course, very practical. So I'll ask again, she said softly. What happens now? Jack looked out at the stars once more, then back at the woman who had changed his life forever. Now we build something new, together. As they stood there, plans were already in motion. Diplomatic channels were opening between humans and other species. Defense systems were being strengthened. The information they had brought back might prevent a devastating war. But in that moment, none of that mattered. What mattered was that they had found each other in the darkness of an alien prison. They had fought together, escaped together, and now faced the future together. Jack leaned forward and kissed Ilara gently. It was not their first kiss, but it was the first without fear, without the shadow of prison walls around them. It was a beginning. Together, Ilara agreed, leaning her head against his shoulder as they watched the endless stars.